This is the Euro game, a simulation of currency exchange and transaction costs. But with the students, we like to call it the shopping game, as they get to try their hand at shopping in different stores that accept different currencies. Before you start, you'll need to acquire a large quantity of 2 different items with which to stock your 2 stores. We have a food store that stocks a variety of candy and a stuff store that has a variety of FTE objects. You might consider things like candy, soda, pencils, stickers, early release passes, extra credit points, free test question answers, or even homework passes. You want enough variety to keep your students busy for all 3 rounds, but not so much that they have a hard time choosing. Prepare 2 different tent signs for each store. Tent signs for the first round will indicate the price of the candy in yellow currency and the price of stuff in blue currency. Tent signs for the later round will look like the first, but prices for candy and stuff should also be listed in euros. To set up for this activity, copy and cut several pages of each currency: blues, pinks, yellows, and euros. Consult the lesson guide to ensure that you have enough of each currency for your particular class size. During the activity, distributing currency can become quite time-consuming, so it's best if you can prepare packets of currency for the students ahead of time. Randomly vary the amount of currency so that each student starts with 3 to 5 notes of one color currency. A quarter of your students will get only yellow currency. Another quarter will get only blue currency, and the remaining half will get only pink currency. Save the euros for the last round. No student should have euros in the first 2 rounds. Don't skimp with the currency. Although you don't want one student to have enough to seriously deplete your stock in the store, you do want all students to perceive that they have enough to participate. Now you're ready to set up your classroom. Set up the stores along one side of your classroom. Use tables large enough to spread out the merchandise, but small enough for a single storekeeper to control. Don't crowd the stores together, but keep them close enough that those in the shopping lines can interact and thus might be more inclined to trade currencies. Stack the tent signs for round 1 over top of the signs for the later round, so that store owners can quickly change them out before the last round. Choose a student to be the shopkeeper for each store, or if your class is larger, you may consider employing 2 shopkeepers at each store. Give the shopkeepers some small denominations of the color currency accepted at their store so they can make change for customers. Finally, distribute the pre-prepared packets of currency to the remaining students. Start the activity by explaining the rules of the game. Make sure students understand that the currency they have belongs to them and that anything they purchase at a store is theirs to consume, save, give away, or even share. The point here is to establish property rights. If students don't feel ownership over what they purchase, that perhaps they have to give it back at the end of class, then it changes the nature of the game. It changes the incentives and thus their behavior. So define and enforce property rights. Then lay out the procedures as explained in the teacher's guide.
So because there's only 2 stores and lots of customers, you can only purchase 1 item at a time. And to purchase an item, you have to get in line, you wait your turn, and when you get up here, you can purchase an item. And then if you would like to purchase another item, you're welcome to do that in the round. You just have to get back at the end of the line, and then when you get up here, if there's stuff, you could buy something else. But you have to get in line, and you can only buy 1 thing at a time.
Every time they make a purchase, they earn bonus money. Have them show you their purchase, and you can quickly give them several pieces of the same currency they started with. The point here is to give them an incentive to purchase something and then get back in line to shop some more. Tell sellers that they may only accept the currency listed on the sign for their particular store. If a customer wants to purchase something in the store, they must have the right type of currency.
The store rounds, the shopping rounds are going to be relatively short, so, but I'll give you kind of a notice of 30 seconds or so you'll know when it's ending.
Don't belabor the instructions or take questions. The objective is to get the students into the selling round as quickly as possible. Now you're ready to start.
Stores are open, okay?
Announce that the stores are open. And during the round, circulate among the students, paying bonuses of 2 or 3 additional pieces of currency to successful purchasers, and taking note of their reactions for debriefing at the end of the round. If students try to exchange currencies, don't stop them, but also don't announce this option or facilitate it. You want the first round to last long enough that students begin to deal with the problem of not having the right currency. As soon as that becomes apparent, stop the round. Call time and ask all the consumers to return to their seats.
The stores are closed. The stores are closed.
I feel so discriminated.
In debriefing the first round, focus on students that were frustrated because they didn't have the currency the seller would accept.
Okay, so what happened? Raise your hand if you got what you wanted in that round. Who got what they wanted? Okay. Now, how did you buy more than one thing?
Because I just kept getting lost.
Oh, there was a short line. Okay. Same for you. Okay, what happened over here?
I got very discriminated against because of my color of my currency.
Oh, so you wanted something from a store that didn't accept your currency, huh?
Yeah, I was trying to barter with him, but it didn't work out.
Well, were any other pinks able to buy something?
Some students may have been frustrated because they didn't have enough money. Don't ignore them, but don't make it the focus of the discussion. Simply respond by acknowledging that people have different levels of income and they face different opportunity costs in purchasing products. You may have noticed some students combining their money to overcome that problem of not enough, and that's okay too. At this point, turn the discussion to the sellers to find out why they wouldn't take other currencies.
Why? You only sold one thing back here? Why?
Help the sellers go beyond answering that they were instructed not to take other currency.
Was there a line?
Typically, people want only the currency that they can spend in their own country for products that they purchase every day. Remind students that money has no intrinsic value. It is valuable only in that it can be exchanged for goods and services.
Why do you only accept yellows? Why do you only want to accept yellows?
My favorite color.
Well, and we know that in Yellowtown, that if you want to go buy something as a shopkeeper, what currency are other places going to want from you?
Probably yellow.
Yellow. She wants yellow because that's what has value in her community, right? What is money? It's just right? Yeah. It's a means of exchange. And it only has value if you can turn it into something else. And in this town over here, yellow currency is what you need to buy stuff, so she wants yellow currency for her goods. And how about you, Andrew?
I just want blue currency.
Blue currency.
All it's going to do me any good.
Right. With few exceptions, people aren't eager to have foreign currencies if they can't readily be exchanged for goods and services. Of course, there are exceptions to this, such as people who want foreign currencies for speculative purposes or because they have fears about the stability of a country's government. But that is not the focus of this lesson. Find out if any buyers were able to buy a product priced in a currency other than what they were given, and if so, how did they do it? Students may have talked a friend into buying something for them. Hopefully some students tried to exchange currency with each other. However, don't anticipate that many students will have been successful at this. The limited time period is prohibitive and intentionally serves to heighten the students' frustration. Ask your students if they have any ideas or suggestions to solve the problems in round 1.
Lots of people wanted candy, but some people couldn't get candy. What do you think? I mean, is there a way that is there something we could do that would make you guys happier?
Is that like a currency exchange?
A currency exchange. Well, I like this idea of a currency exchange, so...
and as a result of the students' suggestions, agree to open a bank that will exchange currencies. Then ask the students how they will know how many of one currency to exchange for another. If students don't suggest it themselves, help them to see the necessity of pricing the currency, just as we price any other commodity. In the real world, exchange rates are determined in currency markets where people bid for the currencies they want. Don't focus on the process of setting currency exchange rates. That's another lesson to be taught either before or after this one. And if you're looking for a great lesson to do that, check out the Foreign Currency and Foreign Exchange activity that is part of the Economics for Leaders curriculum at fte.org. Display your visual of exchange rates and announce that you have researched the issue and are willing to offer these exchange rates to any student who wishes to come to your bank and exchange his or her currency.
I actually have set up a bank here, the Bank of FTE. Kathy is our banker, and she is willing to help you facilitate some exchanges. And so I have a little chart up here. For 5 yellows, you could buy 2 blue or 1 pink. For 2 blues, you could buy 5 yellow or 1 pink. For 1 pink, you could buy 5 yellows or 2 blues, okay?
To prepare for the next round, you may want to distribute 1 or 2 additional pieces of currency to each student. Just remember to give them the same color they started with.
What did you start out with? Currency? Blue? I'm going to give you some bonus bucks for the next round, okay? There you go.
This step would be important if you had a lot of students who were frustrated because they didn't have enough money. But this step isn't absolutely necessary because most students will still have money from the previous round. Make sure that the sellers still have adequate supplies of their products and replenish their stock if necessary. Then hire a student with good arithmetic skills to be the banker. Announce that the selling round will again only be 3 to 5 minutes and that there will again be bonuses for making purchases. Open the stores and the bank.
Okay, the stores are open.
Don't worry if the banker works slowly and not all students are able to exchange their money in time to make purchases. This is desirable.
What's wrong with that? That's very economics.
Wow. Okay, stores are closed. Stores are closed.
Close the bank at the end of the round, call time, and close the stores. As students are returning to their seats, this is a good time to distribute 1 or 2 additional pieces of currency, making sure it's the same type the student originally held. Debrief this round with similar questions, finding out if students got what they wanted and why or why not.
All right, did you get what you wanted this time? Yes. No? Why not?
It should become apparent that while the bank may have reduced the problems, it did not solve them. Many students probably did not get what they want because of the time limitations and standing in line at the bank.
Did the bank solve our problem? Yes. Kind of. So when I ask what is our problem, you're talking about waiting in line. And why is waiting in line a problem? Is this a cost? And so for some people, this was a significant cost that stood between you and your candy or you and your stuff.
We call these transaction costs. So while the bank helped some, it didn't eliminate transaction costs. If you observe students making efforts to reduce transaction costs in the last round, highlight those examples now. Perhaps students cut the line or took a different route around the classroom or even engaged in private currency exchanges.
What else?
So ask students if it's possible to eliminate transaction costs. Of course, the answer is no, but there are definitely ways to reduce them. So ask for some suggestions. Hopefully, students will suggest all using the same currency.
One universal currency. Which one should we use?
Then the question becomes,
Yellow,
which
blue,
currency should we use? Presumably, students will want everything to be priced in the currency that they are holding, as this involves fewer hassles for them. At some point, if the students don't suggest it themselves, propose that you are going to settle the dispute by creating a 4th currency.
We actually have another currency here. I'm glad you guys came up with this idea. These are euros, okay? And these euros, they're all in denominations of
Show the
3.
students some euros and display the visual of exchange rates for euros from each of the 3 currencies. It's important to know here that all exchange rates in this activity are fictitious. No attempt has been made to reflect relative prices in contemporary currency markets. In preparation for the final round, have the shopkeepers replace the store signs with the dual price tent signs.
If you'll look at the shopkeepers, notice their updated signs, and you'll notice that at their stores now, they will actually accept the currency they accepted before and euros.
Tell the student customers that before the next selling round, they may exchange any or all of their currency for euros if they wish to do so.
You figure out the currency and we'll make the exchange for you.
Students willing to exchange currencies should calculate the exchange rate, based on the visual that you have posted. Encourage students to have neighbors check their calculations and circulate through the room exchanging currency for euros, but only do this for students who wish to do so. For simplicity, the euro notes are all in threes. If students don't have exact numbers of notes, round in their favor. Open the stores and conduct your final round.
Stores are open.
So €3 plus this. Half of these, so it's €15.
In the final debrief of this activity, focus on transaction costs, those costs involved in making an exchange or a transaction. The transaction costs encountered in this activity would be lines at stores and banks, searching out someone who would exchange currency privately, or even figuring out how much currency of one kind to trade for another. It's important to point out that transaction costs are not included in the price of the product. They are costs in addition to the monetary price of the good that they were trying to buy. So who bears the burden of transaction costs, and who reaps the benefits of the transaction costs? The buyer? The seller? The answer is both bear the costs and neither benefits. The customer bears the cost of the opportunities lost by standing in line. The seller derives no benefit from the customer standing in line. The seller would in fact like to reduce the transaction costs because he is afraid they will turn customers away from his product.
We call these, in economics, we call these deadweight costs. Transaction costs are often referred to as deadweight costs because nobody benefits. And so is it desirable to reduce these kind of costs?
Transaction costs inhibit trade, and they inhibit the creation of wealth that accompanies trade. Because neither buyer nor seller benefits, transaction costs are not desirable, and both buyers and sellers look for ways to reduce them. In the European Union countries that adopted the euro, businessmen and customers no longer have to exchange currencies to do business. Having a common currency reduced transaction costs in this activity, just as adopting the euro has reduced transaction costs for the European Union countries.